Welcome to Fitness and Thinking, a podcast and newsletter fascinated with 6 pillars of fitness. We have the physical, mental, social, emotional, spiritual and financial states of being. And this week with Elle Mace, we've been chatting on body image, NLP, positive psychology. What else, Elle? What stood out for you?
Disorder dating, eating disorders, diet culture, LP1s, what recovery can look like for each individual person, a bit about my story as well. Yeah, it's been really fantastic. It's been quite varied, but perfect.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed this one. It does feel like we've just whipped through that every idea kind of bounced onto the next one. What's the kind of big idea for you, do you think, Elle, that stood out?
Oh, the big idea moving forward. What would be fantastic is to reduce diet culture in the world for all of us, to trust ourselves more, to just be, find more acceptance and love within ourselves. These are big asks. They sound so simple, but they are big asks. What I would love is for people to just open their eyes a little bit more to, like I said, diet culture and the world, and just look within them first before they go and seek out fix it mentalities.
I love that. And fix it is definitely something we get into about halfway through, I think. All right, amazing. So if you enjoy this, drop a like, leave a comment, go follow Elle, and yeah, let's get on with it. I wonder, before we get into the topics, maybe if you could give us a little bit of background on who you are and what you do.
My name is Elle Mace. I am a mother to 3 little kids, so they are 2, 5 and 6. I live in Devon, and I am an eating disorder practitioner. I also do a lot of corporate speaking. So I work with lots of businesses, training them in anything that's within wellness and mental health. I'm now an author, a published author. Oh, hold here. I must get my book out. I need to get used to actually carrying this around a bit more because it's all new to me. So this book is coming out on the 27th of August. So I spent the last year writing this as well. So yes, so also now an author. I run retreats and festivals and lots of sort of passion projects on top of my core work.
Amazing. And the title of your book is probably where I want to start.
Yes.
Food freedom. What is it, Elle? What does it mean to you?
What does it mean to me? It's so good that you added on, what does it mean to me? Because I think food freedom actually means something different to each individual, depending on their journey and where they're at. So, somebody could have had an eating disorder for many years. So food freedom to them will actually just be 10% better than what they've been living with. It will be a sense of freedom, and then hopefully the journey continues for them. For me and my lived experience, so the reason that I do what I do is because I had disordered eating disorders at various points, body dissatisfaction, I had body dysmorphia as well. My journey with that, I eventually managed to recover, and then that's when I wanted to sort of spread the word and work with people to help them on their food freedom journeys. So for me, it's really about a mental side of it. So being able to eat without guilt and shame or strong negative emotions afterwards, being able to go about my day and not think and obsess about food. Food will come into my brain when I am starting to feel hungry or wanting to eat something, or if I'm planning a nice meal with friends, or I fancy something yum, or I get a nice smell or something, as opposed to being completely consumed by food. And it's finding enjoyment in food as well.
Guilt, shame, they're big ideas. And I think I've seen you say that food freedom sometimes isn't actually even about the food. It is maybe bound up in these feelings that people have around food. Do you reckon we could get into that?
Yeah, exactly. Food freedom is about being able to enjoy your food and enjoy lots of different varieties of food. But it's also about freeing the mind from, the consumption of food. But also when you are suffering with disordered eating, or anything similar, it's all consuming, so it actually affects so many other parts of your life, most likely, and in particular your relationship you have with your body and yourself. So food freedom certainly means to me, and was very much my journey of being somebody who loathed themselves, hated myself, and through that process became somebody that really likes myself, really enjoys who I am. And actually, I remember thinking for so many years, I want to be anyone in this world but me, like almost just praying for that. And now I just feel so awful that I even thought that. And now I absolutely don't want to be anyone else but me. But in that process was food freedom.
And I think the way that you describe it as a two-layered thing, that it is the freedom to enjoy, but also the freedom from kind of the noise. I think food noise is probably an expression that would come up in this conversation. Does that feed into what you would talk about as well? Is it a phrase that you believe in?
Yeah, food noise. I mean, for me, food noise is disordered eating to a certain level. Like the explanations are very similar, like that preoccupation with food and the sort of like, you know, levels of distress as well around food. If you take out restriction, if somebody stops restricting themselves, it's likely that the food noise is going to come down. And you know, disordered eating creates the food noise. They're very similar in my personal opinion. But yeah, absolutely, food noise is obviously a big like buzzword at the moment as well because of the GLP-1s.
And how have they fed into the work you do, the kind of research that you're about?
Yeah, a lot. So this is where I stand on it. LP1s are a fantastic tool for those that need it. And I work with many people who actually has been such a lifeline for their mental health and for their ability to just be able to actually, you know, get out and do more. And now what is essential for those people is that they utilize this time while they're on them to work on their psychological relationship to food and to improve nutrition and muscle mass, etc. But like everything, it's gone to the extreme. And so the GLP-1s are in the hands of anybody and they work for anyone. So somebody who is suffering with anorexia and heavily underweight, the GLP-1s will work. And some may think, well, why would that person take them? But they will, because they're very vulnerable. And that's part of the disorder. And so I also know many people who are taking them who wouldn't be offered them under the NHS, and because it's more of an aesthetic thing. You know, also with some of the people I've worked with, they genuinely really feel like they've tried everything. Like they feel so stuck and their relationship to food is just so difficult. But there are people who would probably say they haven't tried everything, but this is quite shiny and exciting and they know it's going to give them quick results. But I always just say to people, try not to think short term, like what will happen when you come off them, and really consider that and see if you can make sure that that's part of your decisions, because so many people now are trying to come off them and just can't.
What is keeping them stuck, do you think?
Well, the fear, enormous fear of what might happen, but also they are they are getting their hunger back, they are getting the food noise back, they are putting on pounds quicker than they've seen in a while, and so it's too scary. And instead of maybe trying to sit with that and work through that, they will just return back to the injections.
Yeah, for sure. So I had a chat with one of my clients this morning ahead of us talking. I said that we were going to chat, and she mentioned how tempting it was to go back on Manjaro because, you know, she's working hard in the gym, she's doing the circuit classes, she's doing her best to eat in a way that is nutritious and more regular. But the scales are staying the same. You know, the scales aren't shifting like they were for the first 10, 15 kilos that she lost. And the food noise, as she describes it, is overwhelming when it's there. And she noticed that the further she got into the jabs, the less the noise was there, the more enjoyable everyday life was for her. And yeah, it feels like a real fear. It feels like I only see progress if I use it. And then we're talking almost along lines of dependency, aren't we? And then that's a problem of itself.
Yeah, definitely. I think people need to give themselves this space. They need a strategy to come off them. Just coming off them is going to be very challenging for most people. They need the support system around them you know, especially like people in their home as well, like if that's something that's possible, because the food noise can feel so chaotic and actually really distressing. If someone's been on them for 2 to 3 years and not thought a lot about food other than when they are feeling that, like the hunger that they're feeling, and then to suddenly feel like it's got escalated so much, like it is scary, and the support needs to be there to sort of guide them through that.
Yeah. And I imagine that's where people like yourself could step in and would look to provide that support. And I
Yeah.
know that you comment on things like diet culture and that you lift weights. So maybe that's a conversation that we could have. I'm wondering, as somebody who, believe it or not, had big yellow hair about 10 years ago, and I looked into why I might have had big yellow hair. And it's not uncommon to see in psychology literature that people will change their hair color or hair length when things aren't necessarily as controllable outside of their experience. You know, moments of high stress or kind of dissatisfaction with identity. That's when people might make changes to their appearance. And obviously with something like Manjaro, with the Ozempic, with the GLP-1 agonists, people are maybe making changes because they've been told medically it'd be helpful to. Sure. And then, as you say, some people are doing it because it's aesthetic, and that wouldn't necessarily be signed off by a medical professional. But people will look to control their bodies. The body is a site of control, I think, for a lot of people when other things don't feel stable. Would you say there's something in that?
Yeah, the control piece. Yeah, absolutely. Like food is one of the fastest things that we can try and control. Actually, the more you control it, usually the more out of control it becomes, certainly mentally, but also physically. But yeah, like that's a common piece of disordered eating is, you know, there's lots of reasons why someone have disordered eating. And one of those is that need for getting some control. And I'll always remember somebody who was really struggling to get pregnant, and it taken a long time. And actually, like physically, it's not someone's body size isn't an indicator alone of their disordered eating or eating disorders, but I could physically see her getting very small. And actually she opened up and said, you know, I'm not getting pregnant and it feels much better for me to just control my food. It's that coping mechanism for her. So yeah, if you're going through anything, life transitions, divorce, partner separations, house moves, losing jobs, obviously COVID was a massive, you know, that affected people so much with feeling like out of control with their life, like what is happening here. And of course, so that can look like the control of food, but like you've said, that can also be the control of someone's appearance. I don't feel good, so I'm gonna fix it. Like we live in a fix it culture. I just see it everywhere. Like I'm not happy, let's fix it. What can I change? What can I do? I mean, that was me as a teenager. Like if there's anything I could have done to myself, like it was done. But you know what, hopefully people are understanding a bit more, or will be exposed to a bit more over time, is that, you know, those answers really are within us and not necessarily in the hair color. Like it's fun to change your hair. I love going to hairdressers. I love to change my nail color, but I know it's like on top of the rest of the work.
Do you feel that that change is coming? You will have obviously observed diet culture over the decades, like, and seen different trends, but do you feel like it is just wearing a different nail color? Do you feel like it is just wearing extensions, or has it actually meaningfully changed from when you were aware of it to now, maybe working in it as a professional?
Yeah, like just diet culture in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just that it's always forever changing. It's at such a fast pace as to what is acceptable, what is popular, how people should look, what's the right thing to do now. I mean, it's non-stop. Part of diet culture will be like supplements. Some supplements are not part of diet culture. They're essential and they're needed. But there are also lots that are in lovely packaging that are extremely expensive, and they are sold on things like weight loss or something like that. You know, these things, that there are new brands coming all the time. So yeah, and of course body shapes change in terms of what is, you know,
Acceptable,
what people should look, what's acceptable, what people should look like now, what is sexy, what is attractive.
Yeah, for sure. Just before we started recording, I picked up this book from 1924 called The Culture of the Abdomen, A. Hornibrook's famous health guide for the cure of obesity and constipation. And this, you know, has its own ideas of what wellness looks like. And actually, Ernest Twitt, 1924, talks about how maybe we spend too much time in our heads and not enough time in our bodies. And one of the cures for obesity is moving more. Now, that to me is a very simple thing to say, but I've just come across the notion of the Lindy effect, where things that stand the test of time usually do because there's something in them. So, across the experts, practitioners that I've been lucky enough to chat to over the past year, one thing is nearly always, can you get outside? Can you move more? Can you spend less time on your phone? I appreciate that some people will be watching or listening to this via their phone, so I might be contributing to the problem there. But this notion that being in the world and not being in your head as much maybe could be helpful for just living a better life.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and to add to that, like in terms of, out of your head is the psychological relationship you have to self, and just have in general, not just to self. Like, I think that will play a huge part in it for so many people. I mean, how many people do you know that are suppressing so much, that aren't dealing with things because it's so much easier not to? And then they're also not feeling that healthy and not that great. And like, yeah, it is important to obviously look at what we're putting into our body and all the rest of it. But actually, I just think like, reduction of stress, things like that. But all of that lived experience that we carry all of over the years, how much of that hasn't been dealt with and what that could actually be doing to the body as an adult.
Sure. And then you, as a mum, as a parent, holding that stress, holding that tension. You've discussed, I think, in some of the work I've seen, self-talk, particularly around body image and around children. And I had a conversation yesterday. A mum mentioned to me how she'd actively step out of the room if she was going to talk in any negative way about her body. Would you have any experience of that? Is that something that you might coach or something that your friends would do? Because that was a new idea to me and I was impressed by it.
Yeah, for sure. The next step to that would be that person doesn't even talk badly about their body.
Sure. Yeah.
That would be an ideal place. But, we're talking for some people, that's, that could be huge. Absolutely. Do not talk about your body in a negative way in front of your children. Like, they are hearing everything, and they're not just hearing it, they're feeling it. So if a mum says, oh, I hate my stomach, they're hearing, mummy hates their stomach. Maybe I should hate mine too. Maybe mine's not good either. What is good? Oh, thin must be good then. So I must be thin, right? But if they'll also be feeling the pain of the mum being like disgusted in herself, or like you can see it, you're like, oh God, poor you, and so they'll feel that too. And we don't want 5-year-olds feeling like that or hearing that sort of stuff. But yeah, role modeling is important. If you have a difficult relationship with food and body, do what you can to heal from it and recover, so that when you are around your children, you can A, be authentic with it, but B, show them like, the best way that you can be within yourself and how you can see and feel how you feel about yourself.
For sure. And, at the top of the episode, I said an experience as a man that I might not have. As a cis man, a postpartum body is an experience that I'm not going to have, and a lot of women that I talk to who really fall in love with being a mum also tend to fall in love with their body as it changes, for pregnancy and after pregnancy. And the way they talk about their bodies, it sounds spiritual almost.
Yeah. I mean,
go on.
Still trying to get my head around the whole birth thing. I'm like, it's the most natural thing in the world, yet it's pretty horrific. But absolutely, like, and what you're talking about there is something called like perspective. So like, it's part of I do a lot of stuff with positive psychology. It's part of positive psychology, and that could be really helpful for people who are so focused on their body and what they're eating. Is actually like, what is, like, let's take a wider perspective here. But yeah, absolutely, hold on, my body just went through that. And then also, whether you breastfeed or not, it still produces the milk. And even like through the nights, like my body would wake when my child wakes. I mean, people, they say don't co-sleep, I co-slept, but like I would never fall on my child, like I just had this thing where it's like I just woke up. It's like that mothering instinct. I'm not advising that, by the way. Can I just say I'm not advising that, but it was just my lived experience. But like things like that I would just wake up in the morning and think, oh my God, that's so amazing. Like, I just, like, all of it, our bodies are so incredible. And take babies out of it, right? If you're someone that isn't having children for whatever reason, and you've been at war with yourself, like even just look at the fact that your body has woken up every single day and done its best for you. Like your heart is still beating and you have maybe criticized it the day before. You've put it through hell by not eating properly. And you're just giving yourself so much for how you feel about your body. But yeah, it will get up and it will still take you where you need to go. It will still do what you have to do. And, it's incredible. And we really do need to try and take a step back and look, like you say, at that perspective.
Yeah, I really like the idea, you mentioned it earlier, of how restriction typically leads to problems. And yet actually the body needs fuel. And the body needs rest, and the body needs stress, and the body needs all of it. It's just finding what works for you and the order that you do it in and all of that. I've recently had a moment of feeling very grateful for mine. I'm getting into marathon training, and my dad is like my hero when it comes to running. And when he was my age, he was, I think, maybe 2 stone lighter. So kilos wise, I think we're close to double digits lighter. And, he was running big events, really, really good. And the photos are amazing, like 80s photos in Scotland with bright red colours and white Adidas stripes and, like real classic runner stuff. And, running same height as him, similar like broadness through the shoulders, but 10 plus kilos heavier maybe. And I did 15 miles at the weekend.
Yeah.
And then I was able to go for a 10K walk with my mates. And the idea that my body could do that when, last year a half marathon was the hardest thing I'd ever done. And the year before that, it was a 5K, like where's that come from? It's something that I don't take for granted. And I hope that as a coach and as somebody who spends time with people who maybe feel like things could be different, they can be different and they can be positively different. And I'm having a little bit of a gushy moment there, but
but you're right. And also how your body has increased its performance, like, that consistency, and you've kept going and you've gone back and you're also now, running faster and longer and all the rest of it. But that's the other thing is when we give our body what it needs, it will also do more and it will do better, whether that is just energy from the brain and being able to do mental tasks or the running. I've worked with people who have never run, have been, in much larger bodies for their lives and have the thought of doing 1K, and then before they knew it they've done 5, and it's like, if you look after yourself, you can do it.
And there are a couple of things going on in that. Positive psychology, I think, is a big part of my coaching, and NLP seen as something that you're interested in. Neuro-linguistic programming, is that something that you could help kind of explain for a listening audience?
So I was kind of using this sort of stuff before I really realized what it was. So I trained in positive psychology and NLP a few years back, but when I went through my journey of recovery, 8 or 9, maybe even 10 years ago now, I was just doing things that were more natural to me, but also, reading things like, in terms of positive psychology, understanding that actually, all emotions are valid. And it's, it's not about feeling the good ones all the time. It's also about sitting with the negative ones and sort of pondering on what they might be and things like this. In terms of NLP, like I had to do so much rewiring of the brain. Like I realized how many beliefs I had about myself, about food, about body, about everything. And I was like, I'm going to have to rewire this brain. Like, otherwise I'm always going to be like in these unconscious patterns. And so, I kind of went about my journey. And then when I started training in the eating disorders and things like that. And actually, to be fair, it was me qualifying in eating disorders that was really helped my recovery, because I then fully understood like what the beast was. But anyway, then I was like, I might start training in NLP. That looks good. And positive psychology looks really good. And then when I was on the training courses, I was like, I've done all this without even like realizing what I was doing. But so fantastic tools. I think everybody responds to things differently, and you said earlier, like different things in different orders. So for anyone listening, like have a go at NLP, There's so much that is involved in NLP. Have a go at like researching into positive psychology and see how that might help you on top of talk therapy, on top of like, you know, other things as well. But it might be that things just don't come in the right order for you. So for example, talk therapy could be really great for something, so counselling, psychotherapy. And, you know, when you're feeling in a better place, take on NLP and start working with that. Or it could be the other way around, you know? So like all of these modalities will help to some point, but I think for an individual sometimes one needs to come before another. And it's like hypnotherapy. I do a lot of hypnotherapy as well, but actually, you know, what I encourage is if you have hypnosis, also have counselling and therapy too, because you're going to kind of come at it then from like a, you know, two ways, and it's probably going to be more successful like long term and have longevity.
Amazing. So much in there for people to go and read about. But when it comes to your journey, if we say that your journey isn't the journey necessarily that people will follow, what did you notice upon reflection that the order of things was for you? How did things kind of build upon themselves?
Yeah. So what was the steps that I took?
Yeah.
So my journey, my experience, I tried talk therapy, I tried counselling, I tried psychotherapists, bearing in mind I'm a qualifying counsellor, so I highly recommend, and in my psychotherapy training, but it didn't work for me at that point. It probably did in terms of like the greater good, but at the time I was still very stuck. So actually hypnosis was really useful for me, and these sort of NLP rewiring of the brains, like positive affirmations, that sort of thing really helped. I think I started, and the positive psychology, I started to feel better day to day. And I think that then led me to be able to eventually go back to things like counselling and psychotherapy afterwards, after I had sort of built up trust with myself. My worthiness was already like higher. I had more capacity to be able to sort of look back at the deeper, darker things of myself. And I took myself through a lot of that, actually. It wasn't that I necessarily went and saw anyone for that. It was more just my own research and my own sort of exploration and getting really, really curious about why I do the things I do. So even my behaviours, like I remember sitting and thinking, like, why do I people please so much? Like, why have I just said yes to that, knowing full well that that's not okay for me? And so just getting really curious about like what led me to that point. So I became a very, very aware person. I kind of went from being that so unaware, suppressing everything, being somebody that was very, very busy, i.e. just running away from things, hyper independent, could never be on my own, to then the opposite, like found some part of me that was introverted and also loved being on her own, which honestly is so strange for that younger self of mine, but very, very aware and reflective. And then I was recently doing like a sort of dissertation piece with one of my courses, and they were going for like character strengths and stuff like that, and this is like quite a detailed one, but it came out as like one of my main character strengths is awareness and reflection. And I think those two pieces have been so impactful in my journey, not just with disordered eating and the body piece, but like I said, people pleasing, lack of boundaries, low self-worth, not liking myself, and which has led me on to like, you know, have a successful career now as well.
To hear that as a journey and your experience of it, and to say in fairness that what you are qualified in maybe doesn't work initially, is such an even-handed commentary on it. I really like your use of a word that I don't think comes up as much, but seems obvious when you hear it: worth. So shame, guilt around food, 100%. There'll be moments where, you know, I'm probably going to eat a pick and mix after this and watch the football. Like I'm looking forward to that. There's no guilt there.
Yeah.
I've had my sessions for the week planned, and I know that I need more carbs today. And for me, once I've had my rices and my fruit, then I love some sweets from time to time. So
Yeah,
I'm excited about that.
yeah,
But I know that if maybe I wasn't in a good headspace, there would be this sense of, oh, I shouldn't be doing that, or I can't believe I've just done that. And I'll be down on myself for something that right now feels fun to me. And that's obviously not a great place to be in. But the idea of worth, of being worthy of something or not being worthy, Where do you think it comes from? Why do people feel that they're not worthy? Why do they go out of their way? Like, it's so nebulous to me. I don't even know how to form the question, but can you kind of see where I'm coming from?
Yeah. Like, I think kind of what you're touching on here is like conditions of worth. So, we're born into this world deserving and worthy. And then somewhere along the way, we don't think we are.
Yeah.
Like, we don't feel like we are worthy and deserving to ever be here or get things or be loved or, or whatever it is. And that's because of like how we've experienced usually like our younger years. So it's called conditions of worth. So it's when you feel more worthy under certain conditions. So for example, if you grew up in a family environment where it was all about performance and you were only praised if you performed well, or if you got the grades or you did well, then maybe you have a condition of worth where like you only feel worthy when you're succeeding at school, for example. Which makes sense, right? If you've got a parent or a carer who doesn't say, oh, well done for being kind, or just like, just praising them for being who they naturally are, who they authentically are, and it's only get the well done if they come back with the A star, right? Then of course that person growing up will think that they are not worthy at all unless they're getting that moment. And those moments will probably be few and far between, because it's not a daily thing that you get grades and that you perform well, or there is like a focus on a performance. So then you're spending a lot of your time feeling unworthy. Of course, if you if you grow up in a family where appearance is praised, like, and if you're not put together well, then it's called upon. So like, your clothes, are you wearing those clothes? They look ridiculous. Go and get changed, or you need to look better. You need to look better presented. Then that person may or likely grow up feeling that they're mostly worthy when they look like they're done up and they have all of their their stuff on. Same with their body weight. A lot of people will have a condition of worth that they are more worthy when they are thinner, because they may have been fat shamed when they were younger. So I love talking about this, because it's within everyone. What is your conditions of worth like? And most of the time it was not a thing that was done on purpose. It's in the unconscious. It's not, parents didn't realize they were doing this. So I really struggled to think what my conditions of worth were, because I was so lucky and privileged to grow up in a family that didn't have like performance conditions of worth or anything like that. But my parents were very, very, and are very good people and always do the right thing. So I think my condition of worth was to always be honest and always be kind. So I think where that maybe didn't work so well is when I wasn't honest. Like, it felt terrible. And also I was always very kind. And then I think that might have contributed to my people pleasing, so no matter what you do, sometimes you're never going to get it right. But you can see there, like, does that make sense? The conditions of worth.
Yeah, that's huge. And I think a lot of people will relate to that. There are friends that I can definitely picture in those different moments. And when you said the kind of super guilt for doing something that wasn't necessarily honest, I kind of laugh about it with one of my mates who grew up Catholic. He calls me the crazy non-Catholic mystic. And I think part of that is having Catholic grandparents and that influence on one side, and then very Protestant on the other. So you have very laissez-faire and very strict. And
Yeah.
I get caught in the middle, and
Yeah.
when that gets confused, just having a guilt for, I think one of my biggest ones is almost a guilt for not being able to stop working. That's something that I've had to really come to terms with recently.
Productivity.
Yeah, so it was around 2022 when I was working as a personal trainer or an online coach on the side, and I had my marketing job, and I could tell that the marketing job was going to collapse at some point. So I wanted to make sure that I had a plan, but I was working 7 days a week and completely maxed out, and recognized that I wasn't getting any time that wasn't work-based. So I put in the hard rule of Saturdays off, and for the first, I'm going to say 6 months of Saturdays off, I felt guilty for not working.
Yeah.
And that wasn't because of my parents, in fairness to them.
No.
Even though my parents were very hardworking, that was a me thing, obviously trying to fill some kind of void. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point though. Conditions of worth don't just come from parenting. Like, I'm like that. If I'm not productive or maximizing my time, then like I don't feel worthy. I've had to work a lot on that. And that definitely didn't come from them. That's also come from like me, my biology, my neurodivergency, just who I am, my natural character of being competitive person and society, right? So like, social media and society is very driven with achievement and what have you done and hustle and 5 a.m. club, and I've been to the gym before anyone else woke up and I'm a success. And I used to, so 8 years ago when I was going through like my transformation, I did used to listen to these motivating videos, which now I don't even think I'd be able to put on. But it was like, you can do this, set your alarm, 4 a.m., don't watch telly, da da da. It worked at the time, like, because it sort of gave me drive to better myself out of a bad place. But now I'm like, I would just be like, shut up.
Yeah, yeah. I'll have clients ask me to be the drill sergeant because they need the kick up the arse, as they say. They want that.
Yeah.
But I know, and you know, that really ultimately over time, we probably don't need that. We just need to see how things can be to understand that they can be, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Balance.
yeah. Even in kind of really intense sessions. So I've been thinking on this and trying to coach it as well. I've got something called a 9 out of 10 session that I'll give to my athletic clients. And the idea is that every fortnight, I'll push them, pretty much to the max. Now, there's a high injury risk in that. Big fatigue risk, that maybe for a day, 2 days afterwards, if you've not fueled right, you might not feel necessarily normal the day after because we're really pushing limits here, we're really pushing heart rate. And the idea is that we're doing it in a controlled circumstance so that when it comes to race day, you already know that you can go through it. And we've built it up over time. So I did a 9 out of 10 session today and reflecting on last week's. If you go 9 out of 10 into everything, you sprint from the very first step, you're probably going to gas fairly soon. You can't sprint forever. And even if you could run as quickly as possible and you somehow don't manage to trip, your body will pull you back anyway. It's usually in a sprint effort cramp or maybe even a muscle tear that'll stop you. Your body will physically stop you from pushing because you're not supposed to do that all the time. That's the point of it. So yeah, the drill sergeant thing I think is funny. Sometimes it's helpful to have an exogenous motivator like that. But yes, often when we stick to change, it's through habit and it's through practice over time rather than going all or nothing from the very start.
Yeah, and purpose, I think, is added into that. Like having a purpose, like that it feels purposeful, it feels good, it feels aligned. It's really difficult actually. So I work with a lot of athletes, and the food freedom journey looks different to just your average person out there who's not having to train every day, all day long, be weighed, hit a goal weight. Like, for example, I've got a boxer who has to hit her weight. And so it's different. It looks different. So all of this also changes for each individual.
There's an idea that you might be aware of. It was a new one for me this year. I spoke with Amy Stevens, a dietitian in New York, on REDS.
Yeah, red S.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this idea that even people who are, in great shape, they're super healthy and super fit, and they're eating food, might still be getting it wrong in some way because they're still not eating enough, and why they're not eating enough, is that because of diet culture still? Is that because of a lack of education? What is it that's causing issues there? And then recognizing that more food for some people will actually be the solution. And this is in a population that isn't trying to run away from food. So not everybody's going to get it right.
Yeah, and predominantly with athletes and endurance ones as well. But I think with Red S, these people aren't necessarily like running away from food, but I think what also contributes to this is their characters and their personality types, and all of that plays into this. But yeah, like you said, what people look like, you don't know the full story. There, someone who looks super fit and strong and like what society would tell us is a perfect body could be in the depths of something very dark with their food and body.
Sure. So there's an episode that I've already recorded, will probably come out later this month, with a bodybuilder in prep. So getting ready for stage season, basically. And the way she describes it is, I think a lot of people would be terrified by it. And I found it kind of awesome as well in how blunt she is and how focused she is. You know, she says that bodybuilding is an extreme sport and the goal is to have freaky looking physiques. You know, the goal is to not look normal. And that's her thing. And that's what she gets a kick out of. And she's not in prep for all of the year, but she absolutely accepts that what she does, while it may look like peak fitness, is not peak health. And I think that's something that people really do need to kind of question or understand, particularly with social media, is that the people in the photos don't look like the people in the photos, you know? And even if they do, it's for 5 minutes of a year, you know, when they've got the fake tan on and they're perfectly dehydrated or pumped up, or, you know, that is not what they're going to look like forever, because to look like that forever probably means a much shorter life expectancy than, you know, peak health would want.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had a cyclist a while back now, maybe 3 years ago, on my podcast, and he was a GB cyclist. And at the like peak of his game, when he was racing for GB regularly, he had bulimia. And he was making himself sick throughout all the camps, throughout all the competitions. And, you know, I think that was a part of him having to quit, along with a few other things. But yeah, exactly what she's just said. Like, you would think he was absolutely smashing it. And he may have looked like he was, but inside he was not.
I think what's interesting with health, with fitness, is that it's almost a virtuous thing to look after your health. You know, that I'm trying to do better for me. I'm taking the time to eat in this way or train in this way, because our health is our wealth, and all of this stuff. Again, we've got another like slogan there, something marketable. But there's obviously an issue with discipline and then analysis and then over analysis, and a term again that's new for me. There's loads of new things for me this year and I just get so excited about them. Orthorexia as an idea. Is this something that we could speak of?
Yeah. So the obsession with like clean eating and not putting like processed foods into the body.
Yeah, that,
Yeah.
you know, it's this thing of I'm eating in this way that isn't processed, and it's whether it's for show, you know, if you don't put it on Instagram nobody knows about it, or whether it's for you and you kind of you get a kick out of doing something that isn't common because it's good, because it's healthy, or for whatever reason that people might do it, that actually this obsession with health is unhealthy.
Oh yeah, and that's the exact thing that I would say to somebody is, if your healthy eating or your clean eating is causing you stress, then is it healthy? If you analysing all the calories in something and then not enjoying your dinner and causing you stress afterwards, you know, that then isn't healthy. It's really hard for someone with orthorexia to have any flexibility, to be able to just go out and be spontaneous with friends, or like, you know, the amount of times I'm out and about and I've got to grab something like at a petrol station, that, you know, that driving around, I mean, you're not really going to find much nutrition in a petrol station, but it's better that I eat on a 2-3 hour car journey than I don't. So, you know, and again, that's social media, that's diet culture, that's it there, right? They've glamorized orthorexia, they've glamorized clean eating. It's another thing, right? It's another thing to shift your attention onto and use as a sort of coping mechanism. But what's really underneath that? What's really like happening for that person?
Sure. Is there any particular aspect of modern wellness that really worries you, would you say?
I mean, the GLP-1s are worrying for me as somebody who's had eating disorders and works in the industry. My worry is it being in your local supermarkets and teenagers taking it. My worry is the amount of people with eating disorders that are taking them. My worry is not actually on people that it is right for. I mean, it's not going to do the fat shaming of this culture any good. And now people who are in larger bodies who aren't taking them, it's going to be difficult for them. It really is, because everyone is shrinking. And so, you know, these people may have not felt so great anyway because our culture is fat shaming, and now maybe even worse. Anything else that's really worrying me? I mean, things come and go so quickly that not a lot sticks for a long time. I think the GLP ones are going to stick, but in terms of like other stuff, I mean, what would just be really great is if we could just have a shift and have like the therapy side of wellness sort of spike up, the psychological interventions, you know, looking after our mental health more, because it's still was, you know, it's got better over the years, but it's still not great.
What do you think needs to happen for that to happen? Does it need an NHS involvement? Does there need to be some kind of government level intervention? I ask this because I've seen recently the NHS could pay people to walk more. Have you come across this? So it's on BBC News that there was an idea, and they've not figured it out yet. I don't know what the mechanism's going to be, because I feel like it could be cheated very easily. But if you were to hit more steps than you normally walk, then you could earn vouchers for things. Now, more steps than you normally walk, I think, is a good thing, rather than saying 10,000 steps, because if you walk 1,000 steps currently and you do 2,000 consistently for the next week, that's going to be a market improvement. But if you go from 1,000 to 10,000, you're going to burn out, like that 9 out of 10 we discussed earlier. That, I think, is like a preventative measure from the NHS. If they manage to figure it out, rather than dealing with people at the stage of illness, you're actually encouraging wellness from the start. You know, that I would actively encourage people to walk more, and it feels that incentivizing people through vouchers might be one way to do it. It's not necessarily the best way, but I thought that was interesting at a national scale. Do you think something could be done similarly for therapy?
Yeah, I mean, the answer, I think, with that walking incentive, like, why are people not walking? Do we have to dangle a carrot in front of people to get them to walk? Like, what is the real reason that people aren't walking? I think that's the piece that needs to be looked at. And what can be done for that. But yeah, I mean, it would be good if therapy was more accessible for people. If you're going to a private therapist, it's going to cost you money. And for the NHS, I think, you know, there's wait lists. It's quite hard depending on what the type of therapy is that you need. There's probably not enough of it. It'd be great if more businesses could offer therapy, or if not therapy, then even like more educational talks. Like, I do loads and loads of educational talks within businesses, but you know, that's still a very small amount in the grand scheme of things. You know, so how can we just it's education, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. It almost feels to me, this might be a bit of a hot take, that the people who overthink are more prone to go to therapy and maybe need to do more rather than talk more. This is broad strokes, but just a general idea, that I feel that I'm sometimes caught between people who would benefit from a therapist and people who benefit from a PT.
Yeah.
And as an online coach, I kind of slot between that as well. So I can serve a function between the two, but I'm not a qualified therapist. You know, when people need therapy, I'll do my best to suggest they go that way. And similarly, I've come across people who have clearly got disordered eating patterns. So I've referred them to places like Saida in South Yorkshire. So South Yorkshire Eating Disorder Association, I think.
Yeah.
That's not my expertise. So I know to pass people on there. But there will also be people who I think will sign up with a PT or sign up with an online coach and then not actually do the plan. It's because they've signed up with a coach that they feel like they've done what they need to now. It's almost like paying for a coach is paying for the solution. But the solution is actually doing the work, is stepping outside of your front door.
Yeah.
And I think you're right to question what's stopping people from walking, what's stopping people from taking the step. You know, if you paid for the plan, what is stopping you from actually doing it? And that's something that maybe I still need to help people with. And then there are people who think that therapy is absolutely not for them. You know, they're all do. I don't have emotions. I don't have mental health. I just crack on, you know, and I go to the gym 6 days a week and that's my therapy. It's just like, I wonder if actually you did chat to somebody about the way that you think or feel, if maybe you'd enrich your life in a way or understand patterns and behaviours that maybe you're not getting from the gym.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. Well, it's that. It's just a form of suppression, right? I don't need it. Like, I'm good. I don't really. What mental health is, well, whatever. Like, it's suppressing. It's like suppressing what, you know, even the thought of what that could look like and what that could be. I mean, everybody would benefit as long as you find the right person. You know, it's not every therapist is for everyone, but if you find somebody that you look forward to seeing weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, and you leave feeling, you know, so you're feeling some shifts, you're feeling better in yourself, you're, you know, learning more about yourself, everyone is going to benefit. I mean, I've worked with somebody who, he was like, I'll see you because my partner says I should, so we'll just do this. And you know, it took a while. It took a while to sort of like open him up and crack him down and stuff. But at the end of it, he was like, I don't want this to ever stop. Like, this is the best. And now he's like shouting about it from the rooftops. But to start with, he was literally just like, yeah, I don't need it. I'm here, but I don't need it.
Yeah. And, you know, I'll say that I'm probably square in the middle. I reckon I could benefit from it. It's
Yeah.
just my thing will be the time for it. And I'm going to say I'm a person who'll say I don't know where the time is going to come for it. But it's that you could find an online therapist and maybe you have to go through a few to find the one that makes sense for you. But
I would say, yeah. And that's actually for me, that's the time. I
yeah,
think it does take a bit of time to research into therapists, get recommendations, and maybe have a little call with them if that's what they offer. And maybe have one, doesn't work, try another. You know, that I think is the most time consuming bit. Then when you find your person, you will make the time.
yeah. It's that thing, isn't it? If something's a priority, then you make a time for it. So when people don't go to the gym, but they watch 2 to 3 episodes of something on Netflix, then clearly the gym isn't their priority at the moment. And similarly, you know, you could level that at me. If I can find 2-3 hours to read F.A. Hornibrook, The Culture of the Abdomen, you know, then maybe there's more time in my week for things that could benefit me. Yes, Elle, I don't know if you meant to teach you that lesson, but I hear it.
Well, you will tell people that they can find time to get to the gym. I'm sure you do it in a compassionate way, but I'm sure as part of your coaching, you support that, finding that space. So it's no different to me kind of encouraging you that you can find that space.
No, I get it and I appreciate it. Elle, is there anything missing? Is there anything that we've not spoken about that interests you or has you excited at the moment?
Oh, goodness me. I mean, probably I get excited by quite a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we'll have to do podcast number 2 when I've got a bit of brain space.
I would be game for that, and a lot of people listening or watching would be game for that as well. So for now, Elle, thank you very much for your time. Is there anywhere that you'd want to send people from here?
Yeah, I will send you to my Instagram or same on TikTok, which is at I am Elle Mace. Website is www.ellmace.com. And then I have the Food Freedom book. Is you can find that link in all the bios. You can find it on my website. You can buy it from Waterstones, Penguin, Amazon, all the normal bookshops. So yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Did you know that it takes roughly 10 hours to put each episode of Fitness and Thinking together, from booking the guests to hosting them to recording and then finally putting it into a format that hopefully you can appreciate? I would love it if you told me in a comment what you enjoy, what you agreed with, what you disagreed with, what you felt we could have gone deeper into, and what you'd like from the show or the newsletter or me next. All of this grows with your input. So leaving a like is better than nothing at all. A comment with some feedback would be amazing, and subscribing to let me know that you believe in the project. Outside of that, for here, right now, I appreciate it. And if you enjoyed this one, do check out what comes next.